Welcome back to Garden Talk, brought to you by the Penn State Erie County Extension Master Gardeners. I'm your co-host for this afternoon, Mike Bailey, along with Ellen DePlacido. Ellen, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike.
And what was it that we were going to talk about today?
We were going to try to talk about winter care of summer blooming plants.
Oh, like those ones with the tubers and the corms and the rhizomes
Uh-huh.
and the
Uh-huh.
other kinds of bulbs. You're right,
Right.
because within our climate, most of those things aren't designed to stay outside and overwinter, in the soil. Because the
Okay.
soil really kind of freezes hard and it really kind of breaks those bulbs down, and all the cellular structure just kind of disintegrates. With the exception
Mhm.
of irises, irises don't do that. They're very tolerant of
Oh,
those
okay.
kind of temperatures. So
Okay.
where do we start with this whole process, Ellen, of digging some of those things up and bringing them in?
Well, first of all, let your plants mature in the garden. Don't dig them up too soon. But when you do dig them up, allow those leaves um, to make and send nutrients to the roots. And typically, this means waiting until after a killing frost. And I think, Mike, you told me that a killing frost means when the temperature is below 26 degrees.
Yeah, 26 and below, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. And then before you dig up those plants, you want to make sure that you've made some plans as to how you're going to store these roots. So typically, you need a dark area that's going to stay about 50 degrees and not be too dry and not be too humid, just kind of moderate humidity.
Ellen, that
So
all sounds wonderful, but what if
it
something
does,
like that
doesn't
is
it?
not available? What do you? A lot of us don't have that location.
Right. Well, what I'm going to do is take a chance and leave them in the ground. I dug some of my dahlias up last year, which was the first time I ever planted anything like that. And they did okay, but I could have had a lot more. So I just might leave them in the ground and see how they work. And I might be successful because who knows? And when you do that and you're concerned about how to store things, just remember that to balance the cost of new bulbs versus the problems that might be associated with trying to overwinter them, the cost is really kind of minimal.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is, and you may
Hmm.
very well be having a dahlia funeral in the spring, but you'll find
Yes,
out, right? So,
right,
okay,
right.
but
Be interesting, I
yes.
think. Yeah,
But if you don't
yeah.
have that nice, cool place, maybe you can design something, even in that unheated garage. Don't be afraid to
Okay.
try something a little bit different. Okay, maybe construct a little bit of a wooden box or something, and put some peat moss or wood shavings in there that like they use for hamsters and stuff like that, and and wrap that box in a little bit of insulation and over the top of it. Also, maybe they're going to stay well. Okay,
Hmm.
maybe that'll be
Hmm.
enough to carry them over. Maybe you'll see some deteriorations in the death of parts of them, but maybe there might be enough there to get the plants to really kind of grow again in the spring. So it's worth a try.
Okay. Yeah, I think it might be worth a
I I,
try.
I I think so.
Um, yeah, but when the time is right, to dig up those roots, you want to be real careful when you dig them up and not to damage them. So you want to gently shake off the soil and then allow them to dry a week or so in a rather cool, well ventilated location. And then after a week or so, cut that green growth off about an inch above the root structure. And hopefully you'll be successful.
Yeah, hopefully you'll be successful. Yes. Okay.
Or you might just want to leave them in the ground
Well,
over winter.
yeah, right. But if you're going to leave them in the ground, I'd probably put a little bit more mulch on top of them, et cetera, and stuff like that, to kind of keep that soil from not changing temperatures, too much. Okay.
Hmm.
Uh, but you know, I think about what I do. Okay. And of course I've learned to violate all the gardening rules. And and well, that you try something because everybody's little and microclimate is a little bit different. And if you can't find that good spot in a cool cellar, like I said, storing those roots in some packing material, a peat moss, whatever. Uh, but also, what I've done because I have what amounts to a fruit cellar where the temperature stays pretty close to 50 all winter long. I actually
Hmm.
sometimes I just put them in a plastic bag, put them in the fruit cellar, where it stays that nice even temperature, and I'll check on them periodically, and I'll spritz them with a little bit of water if I think that they're drying out, and they usually do very well. Hey,
Mhm.
but this year I think I'm going to, somebody has given me a lot of sawdust. So I think I'm going to do is I'm going to, take a cardboard box probably and layer it with some of that, sawdust. And I'm going to put maybe my dahlias, in that box and,
Mhm.
stuff like
Mhm.
that and put some more sawdust on it and stuff like that. Then I'll check them periodically through the winter, to see if they're drying out or see if they're maybe got a little bit of mold, and I'll pull those out if they're moldy, and if they're drying out, I'll give them a little bit of moisture. So don't be afraid to do
Okay.
that. And in the spring, the part of the trick is to not to plant them too early. You got to wait until that
Okay.
soil temperature, warms up. Okay, these are warm weather plants. Okay, just like the
Mhm.
vegetable garden that we talked about. You want to wait till the soil is about 55 degrees. Wait until those nighttime temperatures are don't necessarily go a whole lot below 50. They typically stay above, and and use that particular kind of approach. Now, if you want to get an earlier start, just like we do with some of our vegetables, you can start these things inside, and you
Okay.
can put them
Okay.
in individual pots if you have a nice patio room or something like that, and give them a head start about a month before you want to put them out, which is typically the end of May. Okay, that you want to put them in your garden soil in our particular climate here in Erie County. But a month ahead of time, you can kind of give them a start. Okay, the roots will start, activating, and they'll send up a little bit of a sprout. But those plants that you started indoors needed to be treated just like you treat vegetable seedlings that you start indoors.
Mhm.
They need to be
Mhm.
hardened off before you set them outside. If you just take them from inside to outside, those leaves are going to get burned by the harsh weather, the sun, the wind, and everything else. You've got to gradually move them out, okay? Back and forth, okay, over a period of about a week, increasing the time of exposure to the shade and then the sun and the elements. So treat them nicely and they'll take good care of you. Ellen, anything you want to
Okay.
add to this whole process?
I don't think so. I've also heard that you could actually leave these plants in the ground and keep covering them with snow. What do you think?
Well,
Is that
snow certainly is a good
it insulates it,
good
right?
insulator,
Yeah.
yes. But
Yeah.
there are
Okay.
times when we don't have snow for 3 or 4
I
weeks.
know. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
and
You want to be careful.
so you won't have that source, but
Right.
you'll have mulch. Okay,
Right.
and put
Mhm.
it on in the fall, cover them up good, and then
Yeah.
check on your prizes. Okay, in the springtime. Okay,
Good.
very good. Ellen, I
Mhm.
think we've
All
used
right.
up our time for today, or for this session anyway. So thank you for listening, and I hope you're here next time.